Faith can move mountains. Radio Maria 91.3 FM.
The voice of truth.
And thank you for tuning into Radio Maria 91.3 FM. It is now time for Side by Side, where, as always, we discuss issues relating to conflict, peace, and security. I am Reverend Father Robert Achiaga. Kene, Obiezu, and Cecil Igbele are here by my side. Good morning, Kene.
Good morning, Father Robert. Good morning, listeners.
And good morning, Cecil.
Good morning, Father Robert. Good morning, everybody.
It took me quite a lot to pull you into the studio today.
I know.
All right, good morning, listeners. And three daring attacks by terrorists within 3 weeks have raised questions about the security architecture in the nation's capital. First, the Kuje Medium Custodial Center was on July 5th successfully attacked by members of the Islamic State for West African province, who freed about 800 inmates, including over 60 of their members. The terrorists, who were said to be over 100, reportedly operated for more than 2 hours, overwhelming personnel of the Nigerian Army, operatives of the Nigeria Police Force, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and the Armed Squad of the Nigerian Correctional Service, among others, stationed at the facility. Second, on July 24th, the Presidential Guards Brigade, which provides security for the presidential villa, the nation's capital, and neighboring communities, was ambushed by terrorists who killed 2 officers and 6 soldiers. The incidents took place not far from the Nigeria Law School in Buari area, Kanso. Again, on July 28, gunmen went to a military checkpoint close to Zuma Rock and opened fire on personnel on duty. Although they were repelled, we understand a soldier was killed in that attack while 2 were injured. Now, before these attacks, there have been pockets of cases leading to the deaths and abductions of some residents of the FCT in places like Robochi, Abaji, Kwali, and Kuje, among others. Presently, institutions of learning in the Federal Capital Territory have been abruptly shut down due to the rising insecurity in the territory. The Nasarawa state government has also shut down the state's educational facilities on similar grounds of insecurity. In fact, a leaked memo from the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, which reported a planned attack by terrorists on the FCT and similar messages on several media platforms, show that these attacks were not totally unexpected. So the big question is, how did it all come to this if this wasn't totally unexpected? On today's show, we will feature a frank discussion on insecurity in the FCT. For this, we are joined by a very special guest, Wing Commander Musa Isa Salmanu, retired. He is an international peace and security expert. Currently, he's aiming to represent his people of Makera constituency in Kaduna State House of Assembly. Good morning, sir, and thanks for having you.
Good morning, thank you. Good morning, listeners, and I'm so happy to be here. Just a point of correction, though.
Okay.
Yes, I aspired to represent my good people.
Okay.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, it was truncated along the way. So I'll put it out there that I lost in the primaries. But hey, that is politics.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to support the winners, and we will fight till we win.
But if you permit, let's leave the introduction the way it is, that you are aiming.
Yes.
So even though you lost in this turn, in another turn,
sure.
Who knows?
Yeah, sure.
You might get the ticket and eventually win.
For me, it's a deliberate act.
Yeah.
Politics is deliberate. I felt I'm someone that always complained that things are not going well. And I told myself, or I asked myself, who do I want to get things done? So it was deliberate. I joined there, and like I tell them in my constituency, that I'm here to stay. It doesn't matter if I win elections, if I don't, I support. I want to offer what I can to the best of my ability. So I don't have to win elections. I can support those that won elections. But I want to be in the system.
You don't want to complain on the sidelines without
not
doing
at all.
anything. So you get into the whole.
Exactly. I've always told myself,
yeah.
if I truly believe in something, if I truly feel something should be done, then I do it. I don't wait for someone else to do it.
All right. We're going to be having a lot of talking today.
I hope so.
But before we get into the discussion proper, let's bring you some side stories. Cecile, over to you.
Okay, hello everybody. Let's take some of the side stories for those of you who might have missed some of the headlines during the weekend. Here's it. Insecurity. Nigerians fed up, opting for self-help, says NSA Mungunu. That's according to the Vanguard of Friday. Insecurity. Abuja authorities announced new security measures. That's according to the Premium Times of Friday. Terrorism reporting. Gumi condemns Nigerian government's move to sanction BBC Daily Trust. That's according to the Vanguard of Saturday. Money laundering. ECOWAS agencies fingers Nigerian casinos. That's according to the Punch newspaper. And let's go a little into the story. The agency in question is the Financial Intelligence Agency of ECOWAS, known as Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering. It published a report of its recent study on money laundering titled Money Laundering Risk of Casinos and the Gambling Sector in West Africa. The study focused the casino and gaming sectors in the 6 GIABA member states of Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, and Benin Republic. The agency revealed in the report that about 300 casinos operating in Nigeria may be involved in money laundering. This means that as Nigeria is struggling to stem terrorism financing amidst the escalating attacks by terrorists from the Islamic State of West African province, attention should be given to these casinos. The intelligence agency says casinos operating mainly in Lagos and Abuja particularly posed high risk. The gambling sports were mostly owned by foreigners from South Africa, China, Lebanon, United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Nigeria conducted its first and only national risk assessment of money laundering and terrorism financing 6 years ago, that is in 2016, and was expected to carry another last year. But the ECOWAS agency could not ascertain if this had been done.
Wow.
Wow, I know. Let's move on. Terrorists from Kaduna, Niger, Zamfara, Kebbi, and others now in Nasarawa, says Governor Sule and Hilament. That's according to the Vanguard of Saturday. 18 killed as bandits vigilante clash in Plateau village. That's a story on the Daily Trust of Sunday. It says 16 of those killed were suspected bandits, while 2 were vigilantes. The killing resulted from a clash between bandits and the vigilantes in Bangalala town of Wase local government area of Plateau State. Bangalala is over 100 kilometers from Wase town, the headquarters of the local government area. Wase villages have been experiencing activities of bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers, forcing many people to flee their homes. But moving on, Nigeria's challenges call for relentless prayers, says the Sultan. That's according to the Daily Trust newspaper. The Sultan of Sokoto and President General of the Jama'atu Nasir Islam, Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar II, said this while facilitating with the Nigerian Muslim Ummah on the beginning of the new Hijra calendar yesterday. That's a story on the Daily Trust of yesterday, Sunday.
So maybe we should say Happy New Year to our Muslim brothers. In
Yes.
Borno State, they have a holiday today. I understand in Oyo State too, there is a public holiday. So Happy New Year to our Muslim brothers. Let's go ahead.
That's true. Okay, moving on to Punch newspaper, also of Sunday. It says, no bandits in Kwara. Police false intelligence reports. A report that went viral on several social media platforms last week alleged that some forest reserves in parts of Kwara State had been overtaken by bandits. In reacting to this post, the Kwara State Police Command spokesperson SP Okasumi Ajayi, issued a statement made available to newsmen yesterday in Ilorin, which says the command wishes to state categorically that Kwara is safe and secured, and no part of Kwara is occupied by bandits or terrorists. The writers and sharers of that fake intelligence report are mischievous, desirous of sowing a seed of distrust and fear in the minds of the good people of Kwara in particular and Nigeria in general. This is an attempt to create panic in the minds of peace-loving Kwarans, but they have failed. All right, still talking insecurity. Armed persons killed 65 Nigerian police officers, 85 soldiers in the first half of 2022. That's the story according to the Premium Times. It says the 150 slain security personnel were among thousands of people killed in the first half of 2022, with about 3,000 people killed in the first 3 months. The killings spread across the country, but were mostly carried out in the southeast, northwest, and north central regions. The 3 regions witnessed many attacks by various armed groups during the period. Premium Times has since 2021 been collating weekly data of civilians and security officials killed by non-state actors. Since the beginning of the collation of data, there has been no week that there was no killing by non-state actors. Terrorism. Nigerians haven't seen anything more coming, says the primate Ayodele, that's according to the Daily Post. Police dismiss officer caught on camera justifying extortion. That's a story according to the Daily Trust of Sunday.
Why are you smiling?
Like
you saw that video,
I saw
right?
that video and I was super shocked.
It's one of the most bashful things you can ever see come from an officer of the state, and this is a really good development that he has been relieved of his duty. Well, beyond relieving him of his duty, I hope that others will learn from it, right?
He actually implicated his superior in the video.
Well, people talk, so
People talk,
let's
okay.
not mind what who is implicated or who is not. But let's
right,
get done with
moving
the stories.
Gunmen kill 3 policemen, 5 vigilantes in Kogi State. This according to this day newspaper. NAPTIP rescues 615 victims of human trafficking in Katsina. That's a story according to the Premium Times. Let's look a little into it. While briefing journalists on Saturday in Katsina State to mark the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, the commander of the State National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Musa Aliyu, said NAPTIP rescued no fewer than 615 victims of human trafficking in Katsina State from January 2022 to date. He noted that this was possible with the collaboration of stakeholders from the Nigerian Immigration Service, the Nigerian Police Force, and civil society organizations operating in the state. The theme for this year's celebration is Use and Abuse of Technology. Several reflections on the theme showed that cyber technology is an avenue used by human traffickers to further their nefarious activities. Police command on red alert over alleged threats to attack Lagos. That's a story headlining on the Vanguard newspaper. According to a statement issued yesterday by the spokesperson of the Lagos State Police Command, SP Benjamin Hundeyin, the command says it is not unmindful of intelligence reports suggesting that the Lagos State could be on the radar of some persons planning attacks across the country. Hundeyin said the Commissioner of Police Lagos State Command, CP Abiodun Alabi, has placed the State Intelligence Bureau of the command on high alert. Also placed on alert are all area commanders, divisional police officers, and tactical commanders in a bid to ensure that any planned attack is promptly and decisively nabbed in the bud. All right, moving on. ISWAP, or some say it's ISWAP, responsible for attack on soldiers near Zuma Rock, says reports according to the Vanguard newspaper. Gunmen had on Friday attacked soldiers of the Guards Brigade station at a military checkpoint near Zuma Rock in the Madala and area of Suleja. Site Intelligence Group, and an American non-governmental organization that tracks activities of terrorist entities, says the attack has drawn the ISWAP guys closer to the nation's capital. Well, that sounds like a modest way of saying that these guys are already in the FCT, and trust me, that scares a whole lot. All right,
Are you scared?
super scared. Well. Anyhow, I have
Commander Salman
Commander
is
is
here,
here,
so
so I
don't be
am
scared.
covered. Okay, 12.7 million Nigerians living with hepatitis B, says the WHO, and that's according to the Punch newspaper. Kaduna, the Meru residents fleeing their homes over incessant bandit attacks, says Biringwari Emirate Progressive Union, according to the Daily Post. Federal agents arrest informants over Kuje jailbreak and Abuja attacks. That's according to the Daily Trust newspaper. All right, ending our side stories today. Let's take this one from the Daily Post, which says Bauchi Governor Bala visits Duguri community, commiserate with kidnapped victims' families. All right, I guess that's our wrap up the head stories today.
Thanks a lot, Cecil, for that wonderful rendition of the side stories. You do this effortlessly, and you make some of us want to leave media work. Thanks very much
You're
for
welcome.
that. So, let's quickly take a closer look at a few of those stories. There were many and touched on different parts of the country, different issues relating to peace, conflict, and security, but we'll focus on just a few of them for want of time. Let's begin with the one that says terrorism reporting. Gumi condemns Nigerian government's move to sanction BBC Daily Trust. That's according to the Vanguard of Saturday. Now, our listeners should know that this is a really, really big story. So we need to fill you in on this development. For those who are not aware of the background to this story, this is it. BBC Africa Eye published a documentary titled The Bandits Warlords of Zamfara. The video went viral. It contains interviews with some bandits. And to borrow the words of Kadaria Muhammad, it contains interviews with self-confessed murderers and kidnappers. Did I say Kadaria Muhammad? Kadaria Ahmed, pardon me. She says the video contains interviews with self-confessed murderers and kidnappers who are still actively involved in attacking communities, killing, kidnapping, pillaging, and generally making life brutish and a living hell for the peoples of Nigeria's northwestern state of Zamfara and beyond. In that documentary, a terrorist is featured confirming that he was part of those who raided Jangebe Girls Secondary School in the state, abducting over 300 students and releasing them after the payment of ransom. He also says the ransom was used to acquire more weapons for more terror. Wow. Another featured criminal in the documentary is seen boasting that he only kills and doesn't kidnap for ransom. Now, last Thursday, reacting to the documentary, the Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, said government would sanction the BBC and Daily Trust TV for airing the documentary. Here is what he said, quote, "There is a body regulating broadcasting, which is the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission, NBC. It is also aware of these two incidents. It is looking at which part of the broadcasting code that has been violated by the BBC and Trust TV. The media is the oxygen that terrorists and bandits use to breathe. When otherwise reputable platforms like BBC can give their platform to terrorists, showing their faces as if they are Nollywood stars, it is unfortunate. I want to assure them that they will not go away with it. Appropriate sanctions will be meted to both the BBC and the Trust TV," unquote. On how the government would sanction the BBC, a foreign medium, Mohammed said, quote, Let me assure you that they will not get away with the naked glorification of terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. If they are not registered in Nigeria and they are only sending their signals to Nigeria, we will ask them to stop sending the signals. I know that during the Irish Republican Army IRA days, the BBC would not have dared to do what they are doing now in Nigeria. It is because there is a country called Nigeria that they are operating here. End of quote. Lai Mohammed's reaction is shared by other Nigerians. Kadaria Ahmed, for instance, put out a write-up in which she argued that rather than serve public interest, BBC Africa Eye, producers of the documentary in question, provided a global platform to terrorists, end of quote, and could be accused of being, quote, accomplice to terror in the name of reporting it by providing the oxygen they need to thrive. She worried that journalists and media organizations of repute, which should know better, were becoming tools for terrorists, even if unwittingly, by amplifying the faces, voices, and stories of killers and marauders who are still operating with impunity across Nigeria. Now, it is against this background that we are now talking about the popular Sheikh Gumi, an Islamic cleric. The Kaduna-based Islamic cleric holds a completely different view to Mr. Lai Mohammed and Kadaria Ahmed. In a statement by his spokesperson, Tukur Mamu, this is what he reportedly said, quote, federal government's attempt in trying to find a scapegoat to justify its glaring failure after wasting over $16 billion in the last 7 years without any commensurate result on security and efforts to blackmail certain media organizations for their patriotism in reporting the crisis is unfortunate and should be resisted by all responsible media organizations. End of quote. Also, he said, and I quote him again, the opinion of some media executives regarding the BBC report and the claim that the BBC and others like Daily Trust are giving undue publicity to the bandits and their activities of promoting terrorism is unfortunate, myopic, and mischievous. Federal government attempts to blackmail media houses to cover its failure and to divert public scrutiny into high-level corruption in military spending and budgetary allocations. End of quote. Another part of the statement reads, quote, the frightening development now is that Boko Haram terrorists have infiltrated the Fulani bandits and that the bandits are gradually being indoctrinated into their Boko Haram religious belief and mission. Instead of the government trying to find a scapegoat in the media or blackmail the media, he said, quote, President Buhari should make his security chiefs to be fully accountable and responsible for any failure and to account for the billions of naira at their disposal. When a commander-in-chief rewards failure with ambassadorial appointments in a system and a society that records increased attacks, when security agencies cannot even protect Abuja, and especially when the Guards Brigade cannot even protect themselves, not to talk of the president, then why blame the media for such failure and ineptitude for reporting it? End of quote. Meanwhile, the Punch yesterday carried a related story with the headline, Terrorism, Serap opposes sanctioning BBC Daily Trust, according to the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project Group. Sanctioning the BBC and Daily Trust would be entirely inconsistent and incompatible with Nigeria's obligations under Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Also, the body says, quote, the grounds for sanctioning the BBC and Daily Trust, as stated by Mr. Mohammed, fail to meet the requirements of legality, necessity, and proportionality. Now, this difference in opinion is very serious, isn't it? Commander Salman, you are well versed in both international, national, and local security matters. We're talking about conflict or crisis communication here. The question of whether to do or not to do. In your judgment, what are the salient points in this whole discord between, on the one side, the information minister Lai Mohammed, and then the journalist Kadaria Ahmed, and on the other side, a reputable group like Sarah, and also somebody like Sheikh Gumi? What to do and what not to do by the media?
So all of them are saying um, the truth based on their own where they stand and what they have, or the responsibility they have to the people. If Let me start with the Minister of Information. As the Minister of Information, he has a responsibility to moderate some of the things that go out there and how his government is perceived, or the government of the day is perceived, and how all the interactions or the communications that go out there. So I think he's playing that role as the Minister of Information and calling on the body. I'm happy that he is not outrightly saying that we will go out there. He's saying that we're going to look at the NBC code and to see, because there's a code of conduct for
Yes.
broadcast and so on. So what it's saying is that, okay, we're going to look into that code of conduct and see if there are any, um, if someone did something that is wrong and so on. So what we hope is that when looking at that, it will be with a very clear mind of doing what is right, not of hiding or not trying to punish media organizations so that kind of others would take a cue and say, don't report on something, anything negative about the government or about what the government is doing. On the other side, also, BBC, uh, uh, the BBC News and Daily Trust TV, they are also doing what the Constitution has given them to do according to their own understanding of what it is. That is telling the story as it is, giving the populace the information as what it is, and also trying to draw attention of the government to what is actually happening. This is not the first time that these attacks were happening. This is not, I think there are clips around going everywhere
Of course.
where these terrorists have come on air to say that this is it, that this is what we do, and this is. There are so many clips out there. I remember also there was an academic that did a very popular research work where he said, "I am a bandit." I think that was the title of it,
Okay.
and it was so popular. Everybody went there. There were so the research work was circulated around and so on. It's not too far from what that research work brought out. And this academic had been researching these issues for quite a time, and he had gone there several times too. So there seems to be this fact that sometimes we try to play the ostrich, uh, typically in Nigeria, in all sectors. We ignore something, we try to say, even no matter how glaring it is, we try uh, to say it's not there until it hits us hard on the face. And so I think it's a case of this. It started with the Boko Haram. This is since 2009 till today, we've been doing virtually the same thing, and the there is no abating. I mean, it came from the northeast uh, towards the northwest now. At some point, it affected the north central and so on. So I think it's high time that we agreed that there is the need to bring this to the fore. There is the need to engage and involve Nigerians in discussing what are the solutions, what are the issues, and what are the solutions. I think BBC, what they did, or what that documentary tried to do, is to bring out this is it to the public domain. These are the issues, these are the perpetrators, these are what they claim are their grievances, and so on and so forth. And to kind of say, Nigerians, what do you think? International, because Nigeria cannot live in isolation. but also the international community. What do you think? What is the way forward? So for me, I think we should be discussing how do we ensure that those things do not even happen in the first place, and so that they will not be imported. How do you, for example, have someone in our territory that is saying that he does not take I mean, he does not kidnap. He
For
kills.
ransom, he just
He
kills.
just kills. Like he's just saying that I'm a killer, and nobody is seeing that as a call to action, as this is a pointer to where we're headed to. Instead, we're saying, "Oh, you that reported that this guy is a killer," helping to unveil that person. Because if someone, I mean, if we look at it the other way, the positive side is that those documentaries could be used as evidence in prosecuting. Eventually, if they are caught, for example,
True.
say, okay, voluntarily, without any nobody inducement or anything. You said you are a killer. Here is it on TV or on documentary and so on. That could be part of the pieces of evidence that we could use to prosecute anybody that appeared in that TV. And that could help us to also show that if the documentary, in fact, if we were serious about it, is to say, okay, try to geolocate where those interviews were done.
Yes.
It gives us an idea where these criminals are. If it does, that means it helps us to say this is where. In fact, to show you that they are not afraid of anything. When you look at in the past, when say Christian Amanpo,
I'm very happy you touched on that, because if a terrorist gives an interview and says, "This is what I do," you are dealing with a certain level of confidence that is unusual, uncommon. And I'm happy you're going to speak to that.
yeah, so we have seen that in the international and so on, where if there are very prominent TV producers have interviewed terrorists. Osama bin Laden was interviewed by the CNN, and I think Christiana Wantu, I'm not very sure, but I think so. And so,
just to support the point you made, Al Jazeera has a very important documentary on the sources of insecurity along the Sahara.
Yes.
So they have these orphans of the Sahara.
Exactly.
We study it in class.
So exactly. So when you see those documentaries, first of all, they could be used to understand the psychology of that group. They could. So what we should do is to use those videos, if we have not been doing so, to understand the individuals, to understand their psychology. Because it's when you see someone through the video, you can analyze what are those things. Is he under the influence of drugs? What could you take out for? So what I'm expecting now is that our psychologists, our all people, our analysts are there studying those videos and kind of bringing out very salient points about those people. And from that, sometimes you could find a way, and studying even the environment where he's seated, what he's wearing, the kind of weapon he's carrying, and so on and so forth. So,
Okay, let's say there is a public interest motive in the production of that video. What if someone puts forth an argument countering that by saying, if it is for the interest of the public, and you feel that we can mine out relevant information to counter terrorism, why not send it to the intelligence agencies or to government agencies? Why release it to the public, so that with the potential of causing fear?
Two things, let me tell you. You can't say that from 2009 that we've been battling terrorism, that those responsible for that have not had such videos. No, it's not true. We can't, because like we admitted earlier on, we've seen those clips on WhatsApp and so on social media. So it will, in fact, it will be a minus for us to think that they have not seen that. I think it has reached a stage that the producers of that are feeling that we cannot no longer be sending it to them in silence, because perhaps they feel a bit disappointed, they feel frustrated that maybe the ideas they're selling or they're giving are not being acted upon. And so sometimes it push, okay, gradually, first of all, you meet a person in private Secondly, if nothing is done, you are forced to say, okay, let me bring it out to the public. Perhaps public pressure or public opinion could force the person to act.
So, are you saying this might just be a case of they know, the public don't know? So let the public know what they know, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I think it's for me. I'm not in the minds of the producers
That's right.
of that documentary. But if someone, you could study someone's actions and try to give a meaning to them. So almost close to that and say, okay, this is another dimension to this, or this is some revelations that I think not everybody is aware of or everyone has. So how do we come together? Because now let's go to the security agencies that keep telling us every day that it's an everybody's business. Security is everybody's business. We keep hearing. And now, how do I involve in a business that I don't know much about?
And we will come to that. It is going to occupy part of our discussion in the topical segment. But maybe we should move on to the next story that is of interest to us. Kene?
So over the weekend, we had the Nasarawa State Governor, Governor Sule, saying that terrorists from Kaduna, Niger, Zamfara, Kebbi, and other states, predominantly in the northeast and northwest part of Nigeria, have now been found in Nasarawa State too. So more on that. On Thursday, July 28th, Governor Abdullahi Yusuf of Nasarawa State ordered the closure of schools in the state following the spate of insecurity in the Federal Capital Territory and its surroundings. 2 days later, on Saturday, the governor made some frank, serious revelations about threats to his people in the state. He had convened an emergency security council meeting to review the security situation in the state and take proactive measures considering developments in the Federal Capital Territory and the implications of the attack on the Kuje Correctional Facility, which saw the escape of hundreds of criminals, including high-profile terrorists. The governor raised the alarm at the expanded security meeting that movements of large suspected fleeing terrorists from Niger, Zamfara, Kebbi, and Kaduna states were being identified in Rogan Juli and Rogan Madaki in Karu local government area of Nasarawa State, which is a suburb of the Federal Capital Territory, as well as Wamba and Toto local government areas of the state. Shortly after the meeting, the State Commissioner of Police, Adesina Soyemi,
And Lafayette Local Government
Area Chairman, Honorable Aminu Mwazu Maifeta, and the Etsu Karu,
His Royal Highness
Pharmacist Luka Panya Baba, and the Chumada, His Royal Highness Samson Samoyari, briefed journalists on the outcome of the emergency security meeting, and it was mostly about the determination to work together. So, Wing Commander Salman, we have a situation in Nasarawa State where the Chief Security Officer of the state is now lamenting that in parts of the state, terrorists are being found. He's become a sort of chief lamenter, saying that in some local governments, about 3 of them precisely, terrorists are being found. And it appears that these terrorists have been fleeing other parts of the country, are now camping in Nasarawa State too. For a while, we heard they were camping in Niger, we've heard of Kaduna. These are all states that border on the FCT. So what can be done about that? Because if they succeed in establishing terrorist cells, as it appears they are succeeding, then it can only forbode ill for those states and the FCT as well.
So let me tell you the issue of terrorist camps or sighting and so on and so forth. This has been a phenomenon that has been ongoing for quite a long time. Daily Trust have done an extensive work on that. In fact, it was some of the front page some time back, some months ago, where they spoke about terrorist conversion on Abuja. And they showed, because if they showed where all the states around. Honestly, happy so But it's surprising that Nasarawa is as safe as it is now, because if you look at the other contiguous states to Nasarawa, especially from Niger, from the part of Niger and so on. If you look at that, you find out that it's Nasarawa is lucky to be so peaceful, relatively peaceful, and it's just a matter of time if we don't act. If we don't act on this intelligence,
But what if you made this point? It is very important. Uh, I never thought in that direction. That Nasarawa, bordering Benue. Benue had quite some history with farmers' herders clashes, and I remember the governor always would say that those who were attacking neighboring villages were camped within Nasarawa state. And also, you remember the Ombats attacks. So with this now, it just dawned on me. So why haven't we have escalation of insecurity in that state? But what if these camps are actually transit points? Then the question will be, they are camping there. Is it to be a nuisance in Nasarawa state, or are they camping there in order to be a nuisance to other states?
So let me, you see, the FCT is actually the end state or the strategic goal at the end of everything. Because, I mean, it's the FCT, that's the seat of power.
Which means it's been building up over time.
It's the seat of power. So at the end of it, everybody is trying to encircle, if I call it the price or the gold. That's where the gold mine is in a way. So because now these are probing attacks, probing kind of like, let's test the ground, let's see how prepared are they, starting with all these attacks in the prison, at the outskirts and so on, probing to see how prepared is the security cordon around the FCT. Now, if they find out that it's not as prepared as they think, and in fact, honestly, it's scary in the sense, not scary because I want to scare people. No, I feel people should be confident enough, because one aspect of terrorism is the ability to instill fear. A terrorist act is not for the immediate. Yes, there might be immediate success and gains and so on, but the success is the wider fear that it instills in the minds of the people. Now, so you attack 10, killing 1 or 2, whatever. But the intent is to make everyone else afraid, to make everyone to be staying at home, to make life unbearable for everyone, to make sure that government seems helpless. Now, if a terrorist is able to do that, then they are succeeding. Now, so, however, looking at that is what a counter-terrorist movement or counter-terrorist operation should do is one, to try to instill that confidence in the people. And that's where the issue of communication comes in. And that's where the issue of for example, you can now locate why the Minister of Information is worried about the BBC documentary, because you have to instill confidence in the people.
But you see, confidence is not a given.
Yeah, confidence is not a given, and
it's a fruit. It's an end result, isn't it? It's an end
result, and honestly, if I will tell you, apart from that, security to a large extent is how I perceive myself to be safe. No matter how you put and so on and so forth, if I feel that I'm not safe, so it starts with the mind to start with. It starts with that feeling that I'm safe. I can go about my normal everyday business. Then the physical security comes in to ensure that, yes, when I say I'm safe, I'm actually safe.
Now, talking about giving confidence as a high point in countering the goal of terrorist acts, which is to instill fear. Let's go back to the Nasarawa state story. We are told that at the end of the expanded Security Council meeting, you had the Commissioner of Police, you had the Etu Karo, His Royal Highness Pharmacist Luka Panya Baba, and then you have the Chumada, that is the traditional leader of the Mada people. So you had both state agents and also traditional rulers. Together, they addressed the public. Each of them actually spoke, assuring people that they were going to roll up their sleeves, get to work, collaborate, and make sure the citizens of Nasarawa State would be safe. How much of that is also about confidence? And because we don't always see that.
Yeah, it's information. I mean, who is even giving out that information is very important. Not just what is said, but who says it and how he says it and where it's said. It's also very important in instilling confidence in the people. Now, the police commissioner that comes there shows authority, formal authority that is there responsible for safety and security. Now, if you look at why the traditional rulers are very important, is because these are the everyday people that we work with. These are the everyday people that we understand. They speak our language in a way, and we feel they are the custodian of traditions, culture, religion, and so on and so forth. So people, they have a special place that people give. So these are people saying, the state authority saying, we are going to do our own part of it. The traditional institution saying, rallying people actually around to say, okay, let's come, let's support the state. Let's also come up with some kind of initiatives, kind of early warning. Say something when you see something. If it's just not right, speak out. Also, all that, and trying to say that if you do that, we're working hand in hand with the government to ensure that things or you are safe. Now, if we ignore, it's good that Nasarawa State is being proactive, and I think we have to study what Nasarawa State is doing right.
Exactly.
That they have been relatively peaceful. Nasarawa State, from what I'm seeing here, is being proactive. First of all, in closing the school, people will think, "Oh, now you're overreacting," and so on.
Yes,
but
there are no bombs
there are
exploding
no
yet.
bombs exploding, and so on.
And
and so on.
yet,
But you can remember till today, we're still speaking about the issues of the Chibok girls. Perhaps we could say it had never happened then. Nobody would have anticipated, and so on and so forth. And so there was that feeling that, oh no, let's not disrupt the SSC senior school certificate examination and so on. But with benefit of hindsight, the girls were more precious to us than
Yes.
the senior secondary school examinations they were doing at that moment. So I think Nasarawa State learning from the past, being proactive also. They are saying, hey, they are kind of calling to the authority that we are seeing this, we are taking proactive steps, we are telling our citizenry that this is what we need to do. So I think it's something that is praiseworthy, and it should be encouraged also. Other people, whereas we work towards ensuring that these threats do not manifest, we have to take all mitigating, all issues or all precautionary actions or measures to ensure that we minimize the possibility of these attacks happen.
Okay, very well. Cecil, the next story there, it's a green story, right?
Yeah, it's a great. It's still staying in the North Central and still talking security. Let's talk about the story on this day newspaper that talks about gunmen kill 3 policemen and 5 vigilantes in Kogi State, and then this happened following an ambush by suspected gunmen at Didabasa, a community in Ajaokuta local government area in Kogi State. Now, this story reflects that some people living in the Jeddah Bazaar reported to the divisional police office that some unknown people had attacked their farms, cutting away their produce. Now, the DPO mobilized some of his men and the vigilantes to the scene, but before they could get to the farm, they were ambushed by some unknown gunmen. Now, the Punch newspaper also has an interesting update on this story, and according to it, the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has ordered the suspension of the Ohi of Eganyi and Chairman Ajaokuta Traditional Council Musa Achuja with immediate effect. In a letter to the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, the governor also directed that the chairman of Ajaokuta Local Government Area, Mustafa Abba, be queried over Saturday security breach in his area and should reply within 24 hours. Moreover, a statement issued on Sunday by the governor's chief press secretary, Mohammed Nogu, stated that, and I quote, the governor strongly warned other traditional rulers according to the state across the state who may have connections in one way or the other with the criminal elements in their domains to desist forthwith, saying that his administration will deal ruthlessly with anybody who romances with criminal elements, no matter how highly placed they are. End of quote. Now, it's bad enough that in a society like ours where we kind of seem to be under policed, maybe that's why we have to have vigilantes to try to make up the number. And now we see that our police are also, well, like the military too, they're also seeming to be a threat. So, reading through this story, what's your take and what's your thought about it?
So first of all, I want to commend the Kogi State Governor, Ihebuzor, for being proactive. I hear of governors saying that their hands are tied, that, like someone was saying, they lament as if they can't do nothing about the issues of security. Yes, they can do something. They might not be able to do everything, but they can do something. Now, this is someone saying that for your domain, you are the chief security officer. That's the traditional council, the traditional ruler,
and the area council
the
chairman.
Area council chairman. Everybody has to take responsibility and his area of responsibility.
Taking responsibility, very important.
And when there are breaches, there must be consequences. People must be held accountable for what they did or did not do in the discharge of their responsibility. Now, if Ihebuzor is taking these far-reaching decisions of suspending the traditional ruler and
querying the area council
chairman, it shows someone that does not, in all intent and purposes, and by his own actions, saying that we will not tolerate this.
I think this is also about the body language of the head, right?
Well, to
because it's very important. It makes everybody sit up.
Yeah, it's very important in every organization that there must be checks and balances, there must be accountability and so on. And when that is lacking, then you see a lot of lapses. Ihebuzor cannot, for example, sanction the police, DPO, and so on. So what he can do is to sanction those that are under the employ of the state government.
But it is still something.
Yes, which he has done. So now it's sending the signal, or it's sending the message to everyone that has such a responsibility that we will not condone this. And I am happy that that happened. Now back to the incident itself. This is an ambush to men. We're having every day you hear ambush, ambush, ambush. Now you ask yourself a question. Is it that we have become the security, our tactics is so predictable that we know or they know, that's the gunmen or the terrorists, that this is how we're going to follow, or there is no longer information security in terms of operations? That means it points at one thing, the enemy within. That there are collaborators that for every plan that we do, for every strategy we come up with, that someone is going to inform the person out there, the adversary. Now, or again, that we are so loud and tactless to the extent that when we are coming, we tell everybody we are coming. And so it's so easy for us to be ambushed. In that sense, that means we don't even need an enemy within. We don't need someone that is communicating with the enemy. We ourselves, because of the lack of stealthness, if I put it that way. Because then we give out our position inadvertently, we show the enemy we are coming, we even tell the enemy our strength, we tell them that this is... So we show our inadequacies up front on them, so it's so easy for them to attack. And now I hear issues like the attack was repelled and we gave them a hot purchase, and our gallant men, so they escaped with wounds and so on. Come on. I mean, if the more we say that, the more these people feel emboldened. Like I told you, it's probing attacks. They usually start with probing attacks to find out what is our capacity. Can we actually deter them? Can we follow them and give them a decisive blow? Or we'll just do cosmetics with it and just say we've pursued them. Now, for every time you repel someone, You're telling him, okay, go back to where you came from, reorganize yourself, re-equip yourself, and come back more prepared. And that's exactly what they do. They go back because we don't follow them. They go back, reorganize themselves, increase in number, and so on and so forth, and launch back. So when we do that, it becomes a problem for us. It becomes that we are unable to curtail them. And once they attack, once they see success, you see, it's like in everyday individuals. Little successes encourage us to do more, to embark on more. If I'm able to record something small today, I'll feel that it's possible. I can take on a bigger task tomorrow, and the next day, I could even issue a threat that I could do something unimaginable, like they did the other time, threatening to kidnap a sitting governor and the president, because they felt that they have tried something small, they have gotten away with it. So let them dare something big. And if we don't pursue them in hot pursuit, take the war to them, fight them in their own space, then because whenever you are in defense, in terms of tactics, if you are in defense, your options are very, very limited. But it's always good to be on the offensive. In fact, you can repel defeat in defense, but you cannot win in defense. To win any battle, you must be on the offensive. And so we must be on the offensive. We must take the battle to where they are.
We must be on the offense. We must take the battle to the criminals. Well, we will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll begin our discussion on insecurity in the FCT. And you understand why. We have touched on the neighboring states of the FCT. We have moved around. We have to now touch base. Do not go away. All right, thanks for staying tuned to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. You have been listening to Side by Side. And now we shall begin our discussion on insecurity in the FCT in earnest. Again, our guest is Wing Commander Musa Isa Salmanu, retired. He has been most insightful so far, and there is really more to come. So let's begin with a story that appeared last Friday in the Premium Times with the headline, Insecurity, Abuja authorities announce new security measures. By Abuja authorities is meant the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, headed by the Minister for FCT, Muhammad Bello. This is important for those who are asking, what is government doing to secure the FCT? So just pay attention. The FCT Monthly Security Committee meeting was held last Thursday, and the dominant issue that was discussed was, of course, how to tackle the spate of insecurity in the Federal Capital Territory. A number of decisions were taken as per measures to secure the FCT. First, authorities resolved to reinvigorate the G7 security operations. The G7 security operations involve collaboration and partnerships with states that are contiguous to the territory. These are Niger State, Nasarawa State, Kaduna State, Kogi State, Benue State, and Plateau State. So if you add those six to the FCT, you are dealing with what we call the G7. The Senior Special Assistant on Security to the FCT Minister, Abu Mohammed, revealed the readiness of the heads of security agencies in the neighboring states to participate actively in the renewed G7 operations. We have already mentioned how Nasarawa State Governor is telling us that in Karu here, in Nasarawa Toto over there, in Wumba, terrorists have come in, and Nasarawa State shares direct boundaries with FCT. So if this war against terror is to be won, there needs to be collaboration between all the states, and we are being assured of that. So the first line of action is to renew the collaboration between security officers of all these states. The second one is this. The FCT Commissioner of Police, Sunday Babaji, revealed that one of the counterterrorism measures involves taking the fight to the bandits and terrorists in their camps, which are mostly located in states bordering the FCT. He said, quote, I call on residents to give actionable and timely intelligence to all the security agencies and to also be security conscious. I'm also assuring them that FCT is safe. Every member of the community should go about their lawful business. We are on top of the situation. You hear that a lot anyway. We have deployed our men, both covert and overt, and we are doing everything possible in synergy with all the security agencies and support of our traditional rulers and religious leaders to make sure that FCT is safe, unquote. So in this particular measure, they are talking about not waiting to defend, but going on the offensive, taking the fight to the terrorists, even in their camps, while they plan to attack. And they are even assuring that they will go as far as reaching beyond the boundaries of the FCT to such hideouts that are being occupied by these terrorists. On the third level, he also called on residents to be wary of fake news, especially on social media, which is designed to cause panic amongst the citizenry. Circulating such news, he said, would amount to playing into the hands of terrorists and urged the residents not to panic. In this particular strand of the grand strategy, they are talking about how communication either enables terrorist acts or the goals of terrorists, which is to bring about fear, or how we can use it responsibly in order to make sure we don't spread unnecessary fear. The story answers the question, what are authorities in the FCT doing? Whether satisfactorily or not is a different matter altogether, but an answer it is. But there are more questions to be answered, and we will take some of them. So the first, Commander Salman, is this. Who are the actors and what are the factors responsible for the current state of insecurity in the FCT?
Well, that's a big question. How I wish I know who
On a
these
big
actors-
radio station.
who these actors are. Then it would have just been simple. I'll just walk across to the DSS office and say, "Hey, these are the actors. We'll just get them." But on a serious note, I think these actors are known. They are known in the sense that you can predict, and this is by no means trying to profile. Now, the way we are, the situation we are in today, could be predictable a long time ago. And it's not, it has been with us for quite a long time ago. What is different now is the scale, the spontaneity, and the ability to get it across, that is the information space, has been liberalized. Now there has been banditry since time immemorial in Nigeria. There has been all these killings and so on and so forth. But the scale has not been as large as this. And with this, because of the weapons that are available to them. In the past, it was just machete and so on and so forth, or spear or something, or if anything, then guns and so on and so forth. So the scale is monumental now. Now the third is the ability to hear what is happening in the social media space. Almost everyone, if you look at the internet penetration and so on, you find out that almost every other Nigerian has a phone or is linked to social media and so on. So one information, one video can make the rounds the entire country and so on. So those are the things that have changed. Now, what has been our bane is that for a long time we have known these things and we have not acted. Now, what has happened is that the security architecture, in a way, has been
Some defaults in it.
has been ever since. The design has had a very big lacuna that can be exploited by mischief makers and so on. Why do you call them bandits in the first place? Bandits is just rural. A bandit is someone is an outlaw, but where in the rural space
And lacks sophistication.
Yes,
right?
it lacks some kind of sophistication. Now, these people have existed always. The security architecture ever since, but especially during the colonial era, is such that the state security actors were only there to protect the urban areas. The police, for example, the colonial police, the colonial military, was just found in urban areas, protecting the interest of the colonialists and so on. The peripheries or the rural areas were actually left in the hands of the traditional rulers that you see here, or the traditional institution, and to a large extent away from those traditional institutions to no one.
So the picture you're painting here would have urban centers like Wuse, Maitama, the municipal area to be the centers, and then places like Rubuchi, Dobi as the peripheries, right?
Now, to a large extent, so it all depends on where you're taking. That could be if you come to Abuja, for example.
Yeah.
But as you go, the rural areas expand.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. If you check the number of security agents in Abuja, for example.
The city.
Yes, the city.
I have to say that because some people say they live in the FCT, not Abuja.
So if you see the number compared to, let's say, if you live in the, so I don't know whether you're dichotomy is. If you live in the federal capital city, I think I know that.
You live in Abuja, I live in the FCT.
Well, you don't know where I live. So if you are in the FCC, Federal Capital City, for example, and these are the Maitamas, the Wuse, Garki, and so on, the number of police and police stations you see are enormous. The policemen you see walking on the street, or uniformed security agents you see are enormous. As you go out of the FCC, the number reduces. So also in all states, if you go to the state, in the state center, you will see a lot of police officers, a lot of NSCDC, a lot of this, that. Then as you go further into the local government areas, you see just pockets. But as you leave the local government areas, you see no presence. So we've had a large swath of ungoverned or misgoverned spaces. Now, when those areas are there, nature generally, as we say, avoids vacuum. Now, when there is that vacuum of policing, and people, because wherever it is, whether it's in the rural area and so on and so on, there are crimes committed. As the sophistication is less if you go to the rural area, but people need some kind of process or procedure or institutions that would ensure that people stay together in harmony. People that have gone out of the law are brought back to the law, and so on and so on. Sanctions and so on and so on. In those places, it's lacking. Now, someone takes it upon himself to dispense that justice. In the initial state, he's seen as the savior of the community. Heroes. Yeah, they start as heroes because of lack of those security architecture or the security presence. Someone takes upon themselves, or a group of people, and say that we have to bring sanity into this community. At the first, they are doing it for the people. Then gradually they become so strong and they start doing it against the people.
They gain cult followership.
Yes, and they gain that cult followership. By the time the state realizes and want to impose its own authority in that, it becomes late. They have grown in size, they have grown in sophistication, they have grown in everything, and it becomes difficult. So what happens is that you have to fight them. Now it's a fight for supremacy, first among those groups. By the time they decapitate the smaller groups and they become bigger, they kind of form warlords.
Some kind of outbidding.
Yes, they become warlords and they control this territory. It's a control for territory. But we are humans by nature, are greedy. We want more. So if they have this territory, they have this control over whatever, they want more. They move gradually into the urban areas. That's where the state presence is. And as they move closer to the state presence, where the state presence is, the state trying to impose its monopoly of means of violence, push them back. Now, when they are strong, they want to challenge the state, so they fight back. And if they have any little success, they keep pushing gradually. Now I'm trying to define why we are here in Abuja.
I'm following clearly.
Now, they push until they come. Now, it starts with bandits. rural, right?
It even starts with a community hero.
Exactly. Then it's bandits.
Yes.
Then they graduate into some kind of terrorists. Then they graduate into insurgents. Now, these are terms that very similar. They all mean issue of chaos, they mean and so on, but they are slightly different.
Yes.
And when, as these people progress, then they aspire, because the difference between the terrorists and for example, and the insurgents is that the insurgents want to form a government. They want to take over territory. They want to administer. They want to be the government of the day. Now, gradually, as they grow, they are emboldened, and their aspirations change. I can tell you that if they are not saying it, very soon the aspiration will be, we want to take over government. And where is that government? The symbol of government. Where is it? Right here in Abuja, right? So, no, but I mean, it's for me, as an academic also, I didn't put that part. I think, so as an academic also, I try to understand where we are, because that's the only way we can understand how we can get. So in the short term, we have to look at these things in short, medium, and long term. In the short term is what they're doing, suppress these guys. You need force to suppress. You need to establish that monopoly of the means of violence. You crush, right? So the state has to bring everything that it has to bear
in the short term.
Now, but also in the short term, we have to bring everybody on board. Whereas government is crushing those that have decided to take arms, and thereby showing others that it doesn't pay to take arms, right? Because now the impression, because of glamorizing of, and back to what the Minister of Information is, the glamorizing of these bandits and unknown gunmen and whatever, everybody copies. There are so many copycats. People that ordinary, and that's why that I talk about the spontaneity also. You hear that it's happening in the northeast, it's happening in the northwest, it's happening in the north central, it's happening in the southeast, it's happening, to a large extent in the south, and so on and so on. Because people are seeing videos of people that look like the real Superman, the real Rambo, kind of, this is the Rambo of the day. And every kid wants to be the Rambo. In fact, maybe everyone wants to feel like a Rambo, a macho man and so on. So if they see that there are no consequences when people play Rambo and they get away with it, people come on board. So many groups will get all of it. So the state has to be firm. The state has to show that there are consequences. The state has to show that it has the monopoly of means of violence, and it has to crush those groups in the interim. Then the second, as it is doing that, the state, because the state does not have the manpower, as you have said, the police, the military, and other security agents, former security agents, are overstretched. So in the meantime, what we have to accept is a reality. Is just like they did in Koji, going with the vigilantes. We have to look in those communities, because for a long time, there has been an absence of the state, or the spaces have been mismanaged or misgoverned. You find out that there are those groups that can work for the government or with the government. Now you supplement or you complement the state security actors with those state and non-state actors, but that are allied or that are responsible to. You train them to a large extent. They serve as scouts. They get intelligence and so on and so forth, while not being part of the complete structure or the formal structure of the state security apparatus. But they are, now, when you check, states are beginning to adopt that, and that worked in, say, the south northeast, the CJTF, civilian JTF, the Hunters Association, and so on, the Kesh they had there. They all collaborated with the state security apparatus. When I say the state here, I mean Nigeria, the former security apparatus, to push back on Boko Haram. States here in Nigeria, or these states that are affected, have to adopt that in the short term. Now, in the long term, is to one offboard these people, because if you don't, this is where it happens, and this is where we make the mistake. we bring them to say, okay, help us to fight, to reclaim these spaces. Then we don't offboard them. We don't kind of say, okay, what next? We don't always ask the question, what next? So we give them all this training, we do everything. Then we recoil back when the situation gets back to normal. We recoil back and abandon them and leave them out there. Gradually, you are now getting another Superman, if I could, that will start another banditry, that will start another terrorism, and that will now become an insurgent of tomorrow. So until we are able to push back this in these steps and ensure that, and that's why when we say all people coming on board is, okay, are you that hunter? Are you that civilian JTF able-bodied person that can join and say, okay, let's push this back? Because at this time, I think we need a lot of that. We need a lot of state power. And these elements of power, what the mistake we make is to use the military power alone. Now, the elements of power are, most academics will say, or theorists will say, that they are four. That's, you have the diplomacy here, since it's a local issue, we have the information diplomacy in terms of peace building, reconciliation, and so on and so forth. Then you have information. How do you manage the information that is circulating out? The third is the military and economy. Now, the military is just one component out of the other four. Now, the question we should ask ourselves, and which we must emphasize, is that what are we doing about the other three? The military alone cannot or will not win us this battle. It is very important because we need it to push to a certain level, but alone that cannot. We have to also listen to grievances. The mistake we make sometimes, and I don't know if I'm getting out of this. I want to pour out everything so that you can now be asking. The mistake we make.
Just to outline your trajectory.
Yes, sure.
The original question was, who are those responsible for insecurity, and what are the factors that have brought us to where we are? About the who behind our present state of insecurity in the FCT, he said, well, the names are many. You don't have to hold on to one. There are challenges with saying bandits, with saying terrorists, with saying kidnappers, and all of that, but all of them have been mentioned. But then you did a beautiful job of outlining how it usually starts. And you showed very clearly that it doesn't need to have started in the FCT itself. Could be in some village somewhere.
It doesn't really start in the city center.
Exactly.
It starts from somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of some little victories, and because of ungoverned territories or misgoverned territories, they advance, and you stated the purpose. Because we were going to ask you the question, why the FCT? But you have stated it, you know.
And again, before they even get to say they will want to government, because look, terrorism breeds on publicity.
Yeah.
If a terrorist will do something, the terrorist always looks for one act that will give him all the publicity. And I guess back to the
Lai Mohammed
and Kadria Ahmed's statement, is that they are viewing it from that aspect, and that's why I said each one of them, from where they are, has some elements of fact.
Yes.
Terrorism breeds on publicity. Without publicity, terrorists are dead.
Which means the media gives its oxygen.
Exactly. So if the media does not provide that oxygen, which they always look for, like I watched some of that video, and Turji, what's his name? Kachala Turji was one.
Yeah, you know what we decided was so as not to even add some color to the side of glory.
Okay,
we didn't even mention the name of the person.
No, but let me say, somebody, one of them said that, well, you know me.
Yes.
I am that person that they have been calling
the
big terrorist and whatever. So what he's revealing on his stardom.
Yes.
Kind of like, well, I don't need any introduction. I'm that Superman that everyone has been talking about me on the social. They watch, just like you go to your Facebook page to check out how many likes I have. They also go to check how many views. What are the comments? And that attack we did in social pillars, was it brutal enough? Do we need to change the tactics? And that's why they keep changing the tactics. this was not brutal enough. They listen to what we speak on radio. And so that's where the information minister is coming from. That's the angle he's coming from. And if we look at that, we find out that the media reportage has been sometimes, sorry to say, almost irresponsible sometimes, to the extent that we do not demarcate that thin line between reporting events or reporting the news for public good and glorifying the acts of terrorism or the terrorists.
You are the expert in this area. I also agree with you that the media can help in countering terrorism, but it can also enable terrorism. The thing, sometimes the line is very thin,
blurred.
you know. But with the help of people like you, the line that is thin can become broad for more people to see. Now, most established conservative regular media outfits are professional outfits that are able to exercise a good sense of judgment to determine where the lines lie. But how about those who use social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, those who use WhatsApp and forward such videos or information more than others? How many people watch television? That pales compared to how many people are on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So how would you guide Twitter users, WhatsApp users, Facebook users on how to share information that is healthy and avoid sharing information that is unhealthy?
So we all have responsibilities. When I came here, one of the things you told me was that as a radio, as a station, you're trying to look for a program so that you'll be hearing a kind of comparative religion
Yes.
program.
Yeah.
Now this is, if not a Catholic radio, but at least kind of slanted.
Yes.
But here you are trying to say, okay, no, it's not enough for me to speak to only my audience,
Yes.
people that agree with me and so on and so. But let me reach out there and find a point of convergence, how we can have this discourse and how to make Nigeria a better society. Now, so everybody, every single individual has that responsibility. As parents, for example, we must, for example, try to look at what information we feed our children. I used to say that we have a society that is full of disgust and hate. We have vocabularies that are full of the others. We see the next person who is not like us as someone undeserving of sometimes anything and everything. Not only do we feel, do we have that vocabulary of hate towards one another, we go further by wanting to work on that vocabulary to actually make it actionable. Now, so if we have that, so there is that already, that division within the society, that I see the other person who does not share the same faith, the same geography, the same tribe or language with me as the other. Instead of seeing him as someone that sees things differently, and I see my own things differently, but there's always a point of convergence. Or the first thing is that we are all human, that humanity in us. So we have to start with that. We have to start with changing the vocabulary that we speak with every day, with changing the way we view the other person who disagrees with us. That we have to agree that the other person, though he doesn't agree with us, but has the right to disagree with us, and we must do everything to ensure that he can say what we don't even agree with. So that if we see that as that's the strength in our diversity to start with as a people, then we have solved the most basic of it. I'm not seeing you as this person from there. That is not the identity. Today when we met, you didn't care where I came from, who, whatever. All we are talking about is how do we deliver this message for the next 1 hour and so on.
Yes.
It didn't really matter who, and it didn't matter who was the next person. We have to start seeing things like that. The political leadership have a responsibility in that. And, when we start and I'm not bringing in politics here. I don't want to discuss politics.
We discuss politics and link it to security. Please
So
go ahead.
when we start discussing the trivial issues, and they define what our politics should be, then we have lost everything. Because in that are the divisions that put us apart. Instead of us to discuss ideas, instead of us to discuss who is likely, who among these candidates, and so on and so forth. No, we're discussing, no, this has so haircut, this, trivial issues, and so on and so forth. So until we're able to get across that, until we're able to say that we should downplay those things that kind of divide us and amplify those things that unite us, then we are going to have all these issues and so on.
Okay, I was going to ask you. You mentioned quite rightly that there is a higher force concentration for the security of urban areas compared to the force concentration in rural areas. And that the further you go into the rural areas, the least security presence you begin to observe. That's true. In the FCT, we have Abaji, they have villages surrounding it. You have Dobi, there are villages surrounding it. You have the Rubuchis. We have places inside. Now, since you don't have serious security presence in these places, and even in the urban centers where there is considerable high concentration of security forces, we still acknowledge, going by the statements from NSA Monguno and also the FCT Police Command, and even what you have said here, that the military, the police alone cannot win us this fight. What do you think the ordinary citizen in these places, who is not a vigilante member, who is just a resident, what do you think they can do? Because you have talked about vigilante, clearly. You have talked about the role of religious leaders in the FCT, clearly. But how about the ordinary citizen who doesn't belong to this? Because it is security for him too, and there might be something he too or she too can do. So that says it doesn't badge me for just talking he.
Yeah, that's true.
So we must organize. Society progresses with organization. When society is faced with a problem, we sit and look at what are the peculiarities, what can we do? Everybody brings ideas and so on. The irony is that when we feel that because the periphery, which is less densely populated, is less densely secured, or in terms of security in numbers, usually it starts with crumbling those. You don't fight from the nucleus. And that's the strategy they're using.
Okay.
We feel, okay, well, those are the suburbs, we're secured here in Abuja and so on. No. By the time you realize it, they have captured all those places. They have put their camps around, because we did not pay attention to when it was happening in those places. Like, it's happening, it's far. When you call some names, it sounds far. But it's not far. Until they encircle us. By the time they are ready for us, we cannot withstand them, and nobody to bring support from, or to bring cover from the outside, because we stood by idly, perhaps, while all this the periphery were conquered. Now, in terms of what the everyday citizen can do, is that we organize at community, at street level, at neighborhood, and so on and so forth.
It's good you use the term exactly.
And keep an eye. We might not have the capacity to repel this, but we have the ability to report. Like we said, almost everyone, hardly will you get 3-4 Nigerians and you not have one with a cell number. What about our emergency number 112? How well have we been using it? People, you see, there's this thing with us, we think that, no, it's not working. Please try. Call the 112. In fact, we need, you guys in the media need to challenge this perception that these numbers do not work. Please, someday let's try. Let's call them let's put them to that test. And I call on those that are saddled with that responsibility to also make it. It's not enough. Yes, we know you've been doing advocacy on that, but increase the level. Let every Nigerian know that there is a 112 emergency number and they can call and there will be a response. That will give confidence and as people organize within community, and let us, the formal security actors, improve on our response time.
Let me just emphasize what you said here, that trying to help the situation individually will not help much.
Yeah, it won't.
But we need to organize
Yes.
ourselves at different levels,
yes.
neighborhoods, Angwa. And let me just add, in a neighborhood that you already have landlords meeting,
Exactly.
they should form a security committee within that landlord.
Exactly. So that there is patrol, there is the watch out. There's a focal point that if you see something, whatever, you might not necessarily have to call the police. There's a focal point in your line, or
Exactly.
on your street,
Yeah.
or on your estate that you just say, hey, I just saw this here. Can you? So that person could link up with the police because they already know him or her. And
let churches and mosques have their security committees, but not enough. Then leaders of those security committees can also organize into a group and link up further up.